first verse. By the time Rehoboam had secured his kingdom, he was strong again. He and all Israel with him had virtually abandoned God and his ways. By the time in Rehoboam's fifth year, he and the people were unfaithful to God. Shishak, king of Egypt, invaded as far as Jerusalem. He came with 1,200 chariots and 60,000 cavalry and soldiers from all over. The Egyptian army included Libyans, Sukkites, and Ethiopians. They took the fortress cities of Judah and advanced as far as Jerusalem itself. Then the prophet Shemaiah, accompanied by the leaders of Judah who had retreated to Jerusalem before Shishak came to Rehoboam, and said, "Here's God's word. You abandoned me, now I abandon you to Shishak." Leaders of Israel and the king were repentant and said, "God is right." When God saw that they were humbly repentant, the word of God came to Shemaiah, "Because they're humble, I'll not destroy them. I'll give them a break. I won't use Shishak to express my wrath against Jerusalem. What I will do, though, is make them Shishak's subjects. They'll learn the difference between serving me and serving human kings." Then Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem. He plundered the treasury of the temple of God and the treasury of the royal palace. He took everything he could lay his hands on. He took the gold shields that Solomon had made. King Rehoboam replaced the gold shields with bronze shields and gave them to the guards who were posted at the entrance of the royal palace. Whenever the king went to God's temple, the guards went with him carrying the shields, but they always returned them to the guard room. Because Rehoboam was repentant, God's anger was blunted, so he wasn't totally destroyed. The picture wasn't entirely bleak. There were some good things going on in Judah. King Rehoboam regrouped and reestablished his rule in Jerusalem. He was 41 years old when he became king and continued as king for 17 years in Jerusalem, the city God chose out of all the tribes of Israel as the special presence of his name. His mother was Naamah from Ammon. But the final verdict on Rehoboam was that he was a bad king. God was not important to him. His heart neither cared for nor sought after God. The history of Rehoboam from start to finish is written in the memoirs of Shemaiah the prophet and Iddo the seer that contain the family trees. It would be good to see those writings. There was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam the whole time. Rehoboam died and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. His son Abijah ruled after him. 2 Chronicles 13, King Abijah. In the 18th year of the rule of King Jeroboam, Abijah took over the throne of Judah. He ruled in Jerusalem 3 years. His mother was Maacah, daughter of Uriel of Gibeah. War broke out between Abijah and Jeroboam. Abijah started out with 400,000 of his best soldiers. Jeroboam counted with 800,000 of his best. Abijah took a prominent position on Mount Zemaraim in the hill country of Ephraim and gave his speech. "Listen, Jeroboam and all Israel, don't you realize that God, the one and only God of Israel, established David and his sons as the permanent rulers of Israel, ratified by a covenant of salt, God's kingdom ruled by God's king?" And what happened? Jeroboam, son of Solomon's slave, Nebat, rebelled against his master. All the riffraff joined his cause and were too much for Rehoboam, Solomon's true heir. Rehoboam didn't know his way around. Besides, he was a real wimp. He couldn't stand up against them. Taking advantage of that weakness, you're asserting yourself against the very rule of God that is delegated to David's descendants. You think you're so big with your huge army, backed up by golden calf idols that Jeroboam made for you as gods. But just look at what you've done. You threw out the priests of God, the sons of Aaron, and the Levites, and made priests to suit yourselves. Priests just like the pagans have. Anyone who shows up with enough money to pay for it can be a priest. Ooh, ooh, whoopee. Mm. Anyone who shows up with enough money to pay for it can be a priest of no God. Wow. But for the rest of us in Judah, we're sticking with God. We've not traded him in for the latest model. We're keeping the tried and true priests of Aaron to lead us to God and the Levites to lead us in worship by sacrificing whole burnt offerings and aromatic incense to God at the daily morning and evening prayers, setting out fresh holy bread on a clean table and lighting the lamps on the golden lampstand every night. We continue doing what God told us in the way he told us to do it, but you've rid yourselves of him. Can't you see the obvious? God is on our side. He's our leader, and his priests with trumpets are all ready to blow the signal to battle. O Israel, don't fight against God, the God of your ancestors. You will not win this battle. While Abijah was speaking, Jeroboam had sent men around to take them by surprise from the rear, Jeroboam in front of Judah and to ambush behind. When Judah looked back, they saw that they were attacked front and back. They prayed desperately to God. The priests blew their trumpets, and the soldiers of Judah shouted their battle cry. At the battle cry, God routed Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. The army of Israel scattered before Judah. God gave them the victory. Abijah and his troops slaughtered them. 500,000 of Israel's best fighters were killed that day. Civil war. The army of Israel fell flat on its face, a humiliating defeat. The army of Judah won hands down because they trusted God, the God of their ancestors. Abijah followed up his victory by pursuing Jeroboam, taking the towns of Bethel, Jeshanah, and Ephraim with their surrounding villages. Jeroboam never did recover from his defeat while Abijah lived. Later on, God struck him down and he died. Meanwhile, Abijah flourished. He married 14 wives. Y'all love marrying a whole bunch of wives. Meanwhile, Abijah flourished. He married 14 wives and ended up with a family of 27 sons and 16 daughters. That's a big family. The rest of the history of Abijah, what he did and said, is written in the study written by Iddo the prophet. 2 Chronicles 14, King Asa. Abijah died and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. His son Asa became the next king. For 10 years into Asa's reign, the country was at peace. Asa was a good king. He did things right in God's eyes. He cleaned house, got rid of pagan altars and shrines, smashed the sacred stone pillars, and chopped down the section religion groves, also known as Asherim. He told Judah to center their lives in God, the God of their fathers, to do what the law said, to follow the commandments. Because he got rid of all the pagan shrines and altars in the cities of Judah, his kingdom was at peace. Because the land was quiet and there was no war, he was able to build up a good defense system in Judah. God kept the peace. Asa said to his people, while we have the chance and the land is quiet, let's build a solid defense system, fortifying our cities with walls, towers, gates, and bars. We have this peaceful land because we sought God. He has given us rest from all troubles. So they built and enjoyed prosperity. Asa had an army of 300,000 Judeans equipped with shields and spears, and another 280,000 Benjamites who were shield bearers and archers. They were all courageous warriors. Zerah the Ethiopian went to war against Asa with an army of 1,000,000 plus 300 chariots and got as far as Marisha. Asa met him there and prepared to fight in the valley of Zephathah near Marisha. Then Asa prayed to God, oh God, you aren't impressed by numbers or intimidated by a show of force once you decide to help. Help us, oh God. We've come out to meet this huge army because we trust in you. And who are you? Don't let mere mortals stand against you. God defeated the Ethiopians before Asa and Judah. The Ethiopians ran for their lives. No shoes and nothing, Jesus. Asa and his men chased them as far as Gerar. So many of the Ethiopians were killed that there was no fight left in them. A massacre before God and his troops. Judah carted off loads of plunder. They devastated all the towns around Gerar, whose people were helpless, paralyzed by the fear of God, and looted the country. They also attacked herdsmen and brought back a lot of sheep and camels to Jerusalem. Now, what did the herdsmen do? Just out there minding their own business. You're going to steal their sheep. 2 Chronicles chapter 15. Then Azariah, son of Obed, moved by the Spirit of God, went out to meet Asa. He said, listen carefully, Asa, and listen, Judah and Benjamin. God will stick with you as long as you stick with him. If you look for him, he will let himself be found. But if you leave him, he'll leave you. For a long time, Israel didn't have the real God, nor did they have the help of the priest or teacher or book. But when they were in trouble and got serious and decided to seek God, the God of Israel, God let himself be found. At that time, it was a dog-eat-dog world. Life was constantly up for grabs. No one, regardless of country, knew what the next day might bring. Nation battered nation, city pummeled city. God let loose every kind of trouble among them. That sounds like now. But it's different with you. Be strong, take heart. Payday is coming. Asa heard the prophecy of Azariah, son of Obed, took a deep breath, then rolled up his sleeves and went to work. He cleaned out the obscene and polluting sacred shrines from the whole country of Judah and Benjamin and from the towns he had taken in the hill country of Ephraim. He spruced up the altar of God that was in front of the temple porch. Then he called for assembly for all Judah and Benjamin, including those from Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon, who were living there at the time. For many from Israel had left their homes and joined forces with Asa when they saw that God was on his side. Then they all arrived in Jerusalem in the 3rd month of the 15th year of Asa's reign for a great assembly of worship. From their earlier plunder, they offered sacrifices of 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep for the worship. Then they bound themselves in a covenant to seek God, the God of their fathers, wholeheartedly, holding nothing back. And they agreed that anyone who refused to seek God, the God of Israel, should be killed, no matter who it was, young or old, man or woman. They shouted out their promise to God, a joyful sound accompanied with blasts from trumpets and ram's horns. The whole country felt good about the covenant promise. They had given their promise joyfully from the heart, anticipating the best. They sought God, and he showed up, ready to be found. God gave them peace within and without, a most peaceable kingdom. In his cleanup of the country, Asa went so far as to remove his mother, Queen Makkah from her throne because she had built a shockingly obscene image of the sex goddess Asherah. Asa tore it down, smashed it, and burned it in the Kidron Valley. Unfortunately, he didn't get rid of the local sex and religion shrines, but he was well-intentioned. His heart was in the right place, loyal to God. All the gold and silver vessels and artifacts that he and his father had consecrated for holy use, he installed in the temple of God. There wasn't a trace of war up to the 35th year of Asa's reign. 2 Chronicles 16. But in the 36th year of Asa's reign, Baasha, king of Israel, attacked. He started by building a fort at Ramah and closing the border between Israel and Judah to keep Asa, king of Judah, from leaving or entering. Asa took silver and gold from the treasuries of the temple of God and the royal palace and sent it to Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, who lived in Damascus, with this message: let's make a treaty like the one between our fathers. I'm showing my good faith with this gift of silver and gold. Break your deal with Baasha, king of Israel, so he'll quit fighting against me. Ben-Hadad went along with King Asa and sent his troops against the towns of Israel. They sacked Ijon, Dan, Abel, Mam, and all the store cities of Naphtali. When Baasha got the report, he quit fortifying Ramah. Then King Asa issued orders to his people in Judah to haul away the logs and stones Baasha had used in the fortification of Ramah and used them himself to fortify Geba and Mizpah. Just after that, Hananiah the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and says, because you went for help to the king of Aram and didn't ask God for help, you've lost a victory over the army of the king of Aram. Didn't the Ethiopians and Libyans come against you with superior forces, completely outclassing you with their chariots and cavalry? But you asked God for help, and he gave you the victory. God is always on the alert, constantly on the lookout for people who are totally committed to him. You are foolish to go for human help when you could have had God's help. Now you're in trouble. One round of war after another. At that, Asa lost his temper. Angry, he put Hananiah in stocks. At the same time, Asa started abusing some of the people. A full account of Asa is written in the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. In the 39th year of reign of King Asa, came down with a severe case of foot infection. He didn't ask God for help, but instead went to the doctors. Then Asa died. He died in the 41st year of his reign. They buried him in a mausoleum that he had built for himself in the city of David. They laid him in a crypt full of aromatic oils and spices. Then they had a huge bonfire in his memory. 2 Chronicles chapter 17, Jehoshaphat of Judah. Asa's son Jehoshaphat was the next king. He started out by working on his defense system against Israel. He put troops in all the fortress cities of Judah and deployed garrisons throughout Judah and in the towns of Ephraim that his father Asa had captured. God was on Jehoshaphat's side because he stuck to the ways of his father Asa's early years. He didn't fool around with the popular Baal religion. He was a seeker and follower of the God of his father and was obedient to him. He wasn't like Israel. And God secured the kingdom under his rule, gave him a firm grip on it. And everyone in Judah showed their appreciation by bringing gifts. Jehoshaphat ended up very rich and much honored. He was single-minded in following God. He got rid of the local sex and religion shrines. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent his officials, excellent men, every one of them, Ben-Hail, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nethiel, and Micaiah, on a teaching mission to the cities of Judah. They were accompanied by Levites, Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebadiah, Asahel, Shemarath, Jehonathan, Adijah, Tabajah, and Tab-Odonijah. The priests Elisham and Jehoram were also in the company. They made a circuit of the towns of Judah, teaching the people and using the book of the revelation of God as their text. There was a strong sense of the fear of God in all the kingdoms around Judah. They didn't dare go to war against Jehoshaphat. Some Philistines even brought gifts and a load of silver to Jehoshaphat, and the desert Bedouin brought flocks, 7,700 rams, that's a lot, and 7,700 goats. That's amazing. 14,000 rams and goats, that's a lot. So Jehoshaphat became stronger by the day and constructed more and more forts and store cities, an age of prosperity for Judah. He also had excellent fighting men stationed in Jerusalem. The captains of the military units of Judah, classified according to families, were Captain Adnah, with 300,000 soldiers, his associate Captain Jehohanan with 280,000, his associate Amasa, son of Zichri, a volunteer for God, with 200,000. Officer Elida represented Benjamin with 200,000, fully equipped with bow and shield, and his associate was Jehozabad with 180,000 armed and ready for battle. These were under the direct command of the king. In addition, There were troops assigned to the fortress city spread all over Judah. This is